What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another exclusive interview with PW Mania. My name is Scott Mitchell, and joining me today is the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, the Overman himself, EC3. How are you doing today?
I'm over, man. That's how I'm doing today. Excellent. It's another day that ends in Y, which means the overman's thriving, striving. He's killing it, making things happen. About to sit down, chew the fat, spit it out, talk some junk. Let's do it.
Love it. And, I want to start from, you winning that championship, you winning the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. What does it mean to you to represent the company and be the top dog there, essentially?
Well, I mean, I am a top man, and I should be a top man in each and every company I go to, and I have been a top man in each and every company I go to, besides the WWE, but that's okay. Um, no, it means everything. Like, it really didn't settle in till after I won it. Like the history, the legacy, the lineage of what I actually possessed at that moment. Because prior to that, I was like laser focused on the business, I would say, and making the right moves to get into that position. But having that title means everything. And with where the company is and what we can be, what I want us to be, what I'm leading us to be, like being the flag bearer, holding that title, reestablishing its worth, its value, its dominance over the wrestling scene. It's a heavy burden, a cross, some might say, but I have no problem carrying it, and I'm enjoying every second of it. So I do it. It's a possessive power. I don't know if you are familiar with J.R.R. Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings, with the Ring of Power, right? It's kind of like
Definitely.
that. Yeah, because I
Definitely.
I I can see myself never, ever, ever wanting to give it up, and I may
Definitely.
have to be killed to get it off me, and we'll see what happens. But I love being the champion.
Definitely. And the person you won it from, Tyrus, is somebody who you've told quite the story with, not even just in NWA, like back in Impact, back in TNA, like what was it like to just work with him and be his retirement match and or so and so or quote unquote retirement match, because you know how the world of wrestling works with retirements. But
I was like,
as of
wait,
now,
did he?
no.
Okay.
But yeah, what was that like for you?
Um, Tyrus and I, like, I mean, our story beyond what has been seen on TV, like we came up together through FCW. We've known each other a very long time. We've been cordial. We've been enemies. We've been friends, and we still are to this day. I mean, sometimes I'm on his podcast that he has on Fox News. Deal with it, guys. I'm on a podcast. I don't care where I talk and who I talk to. But so working with Tyrus, like it's a great honor for anybody who's had any sort of semblance of career and success to be their final match. Sort of the one, like when I look at how mine will end, sometimes I'm like a samurai. I'm looking for the perfect death, right? Like who's going to be the right person to defeat me? But to have that honor to defeat somebody else on their way out, be past that torch, it's huge. I wish we had like the story is good. Like we didn't try to wrestle a match. Well, I didn't. I'm not going to wrestle the guy. I wanted to have a Greek tragedy. That was kind of my idea. But like our reality, I wish we could have really delved into it, and I wish the TV and the circumstances, and we had all the bells and whistles of like I don't know a WWE to really dive into that story. Because from FCW, if it had FCW footage, stuff like that from season 4 of NXT, the Forgotten Season, where it was an absolute catastrophe nonstop, to Impact, where he came in to be my heavy. He was there when I won my world championship. To have him by my side for so long, to then have us split apart. He was my final match in Impact, actually, too. Uh, little does anyone remember because it was on one of those weird pay-per-views they had. But great honor passing the torch. He said something very special to me as I made him submit. And someday, if someone's lucky enough, I'll do the same for them.
Definitely. So you've gotten to work with a lot of
Real. I'm sorry, Scott, because I don't think Tyrus, he gets a lot of scrutiny and things because of stupid politics. But I don't think wrestling fans know the true love, passion, adoration, devotion he had to this business. He still has. Like when he hits me with memes on Instagram, they're not political. He's sending me wrestling stuff. Like he's sending me old matches. Like he's a student of the game. He loves this probably more than anybody I do know and has a deep fondness and respect for it. So it's probably very tough for him to go away, but he is
Definitely.
thriving. He is successful and more power to him. Two, two Amazon best-selling books. I don't have any, so I guess he won that.
Definitely. And you know, it's pretty interesting that you say that because I've worked with a bunch of NWA talent, a bunch of talented wrestlers for sure. I don't think I've ever heard somebody say anything bad about him, like working with him in the
Huh?
ring and just outside of the ring. Because I remember I want to say I was working with Mims at the time, and we got on the subject of Tyrus because right around that championship series, and he had nothing but good things to say about him. It was really interesting to hear like what he had to say just in general about the knowledge that Tyrus had that he was able to pass on to Mims too.
He would be a really good, I don't know if I don't want to say producer as much as like creative console, I think. And especially because he has a weird memory where he remembers a lot.
Yeah,
And like sometimes the best creative you can have in wrestling is like being inspired by something that happened, I don't know, 1984 or 1993. Like, hey, remember when this happened or this finished in this match? And you're like, no. But you look at it and you're like, well, that's really cool. If I take that and do this instead of that, and they do that and that and that, that's how you make innovative, great things. You're collaborating with everything that has ever happened. Creativity is collaboration.
definitely. And you know, I want to talk a little bit about your debut at NWA against Mims at NWA 74 because we are approaching the 76th anniversary.
Mhm.
But what was it like to debut for the NWA and work with Mims?
Well, I mean, working with middles, like I always really, at this point, I truly enjoy the aspect of the young up and comer who like Tyrus, myself, a lot of guys, all the top guys within WWE, guys from WWE that are now in AEW, we had this really great benefit that a lot of us went through a certain system like FCW, where we had the knowledge of Dr. Tom or Dusty Rhodes and Norman Smiley, Billy Gunn, like Endless Nate, Steve Kern, and then that kind of tree is with us now. And it's hard to pass it on to younger talent until you actually get in the ring with them. And what we know that we were taught by great veterans, like in WWE, like a Cena or an Orton, those guys pass a lot on to us that we have to give back. So working with Mims in that aspect was really cool. Sorry, he thought he was going to win, but I don't lose. I just don't. But maybe one day you can get me. But it was cool. It's cool to debut. It was cool to be a part of the NWA. William and I have a storied history, and there was almost a chance where I was going to be there initially, but I ended up going to WWE instead. So it was a long time coming because we have like minds and shared vision on certain things that it was meant to be this way. So
Definitely. And I did want to talk a little bit about WWE versus NWA, I guess, because you are no stranger to the WWE production and the machine and stuff like that. But what was it like kind of switching gears to coming to the NWA, and how was that like how did you need to make any changes with how you presented yourself or how you worked in NWA compared to WWE?
I, this is prior to the new regime, which credit due where credit is due. WWE's been really good lately since Vince left. Like I still would, but in the past, it was very controlled and it was tyrannical in a way. One man was in charge of everything and didn't know what was going on half the time. The other half of the time, his mind was completely vacant. He lost it, and everything was super controlled, and everybody was super job scared. So the ability to create within yourself wasn't there. Hey, here's a script. Oh, do you mind if I do this, this, and this? No, you can't. You have to say exactly that. Why? I would never say it doesn't matter. Boss, like everyone walking on eggshells, you
Yeah,
know, bending a knee to the guard per se. Right now, it seems like a lot of talents are getting over because within the confines and the amazing tools they have, and now like the new era of agents, the new creative, like a lot of people are thriving because they're giving guidelines more than rules. So that wasn't the case there. So coming to NWA from that system, though, it was, I don't like the term creative freedom because that's not a real thing, but it was, you were allowed to be who you wanted to be and presented under the vision of WPC. So he's a musician, right? And nobody ever told him how to play his own songs. He knows that. And that's the cool thing about having a creative as your boss. He knows that, well, here's what we have to get. Show me how we get there. Done. So I really like being in control of my own narrative, so to speak.
Definitely. And I would say this is probably one of my favorite versions of EC3 that we've ever seen before.
Overman, Overman rules, and I'm just getting started, man.
It really does, because you went from being Dixie Carter's nephew in TNA or Impact. I forgot what it was called at the time. I think it was Impact, I
Oh,
want to say. But you went from that to, being obviously a little bit prior, like with Derek Bateman in WWE, but now it seems like you really just get to be who you always wanted to be.
yeah, that's the thing I like to tell young talents too, is they're in a rush to be what they want to be. And if they do that when they're not skilled or equipped or experienced enough, who they want to be is going to meet a short end. Or sometimes what it's going to take is you have to be something you're not to become what you want to be. I mean, for example, you can take like John Cena, who boots and trunks, cheap pop, kind of white meat baby face. That's not him. Gets over because he's a white rapper, you know, but he's free to be entertaining in a version of himself. If you ask him, though, that version of himself is the exact opposite of who he is. But because it got so transcendently over, he was allowed to evolve into himself and become a huge megastar. Same thing you could say for guys like The Rock and Austin. All these guys had to be something they didn't want to be or weren't really until the right times came and they built up the right body of work, made the right connections, and the right opportunities struck where they can become who they're supposed to be, who they really are. Without, there's no Stone Cold Steve Austin without Stunning Steve or a Ringmaster. There's no Final Boss Rock without Flex Cavana or Rocky Maivia. So it's cool to be who you want to be. And this is definitely a version of myself that's pretty true to who I am.
Definitely. And it's been a lot of fun to watch from a fan standpoint, for sure. So I did want to rewind a little bit back to the Nuff Said show where you got to work with Kevin Kiley, formerly Alex Riley, for everyone wondering. You got to sign with NWA prior to that show. What was it like officially signing with the NWA and working on that show?
I mean, when I walked in the door, I was there, so contracts, like none of that really matters to me. Like when I stepped foot in the NWA, I looked around, I'm like, this is a place I can thrive, this is a place I can lead, this is a place I can help, and this is a place that can help me. This is a place we can take to a next level if everything falls into place. So dotting a line and signing an official contract or being a per appearance guy was kind of negligible because I was already committed. I was committed before I walked in. Like when we began talking and knowing the ideas, I was committed.
Absolutely. And you got to have two or a couple great title defenses recently. I want to talk about a little bit about your match with Tom Latimer at Samhain, which was fantastic
Also,
to watch.
yeah, and like man, we fucking brought it. Tom is one of the best in ring people in the world, and I'm not
Oh
saying
yeah.
like company. I'm saying in the world. And part of the inspiration I had to coming over here was like seeing him and be like, can I shed some light on how good this guy really is? Because he had, the troubled past and kind of got thrown away. There's something about, I guess, the credence and the accolades that don't come with a guy who's 6'3", looks like a movie star, jacked out of his mind, where people don't resonate with his work rate so much, maybe online. Whereas I can guarantee he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. So very proud of that match. The other one, probably the ultimate match of death.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was fantastic.
Cardona,
fantastic to watch.
yeah, Cardona's another guy I despise, but I love working with because he pushes, himself out of his own comfort zone. He's very creative. He When we approach, doing these, we look at different ways. He's been completely self-made, reinvented, and absolutely is killing it, short of his pec falling off. Sorry, buddy, but it'll come back. And when it does, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. But the ultimate match of death is like I said, I never do a death match. So it's kind of I don't know. I don't want to say a parody of a death match because we really did kick the crap out of each other. It was a parody of the idea where a death match has to be this one thing, when in fact, within the confines of the death match, you can tell a great story, which I think Cardona did when he worked with Nick Gage too. So that was just another way
Oh
to
yeah,
do it. Like using all the bells and whistles and the fun. And I mean, there's nothing fun about glass and bleeding, but I don't know, kind of making a quip and then relentlessly following through to its delivery. That's what I got out of that.
definitely. And it was a lot of fun to watch. And just like that defense, I also really enjoyed watching your defense against Silas Mason recently at Hard Times.
Yeah,
What was that like for you to defend your title against him? And he's another great up and comer that NWA has.
he's definitely going to be on the radar, and he might be one of those guys I mentioned that might see to my demise in the end. Considering I burnt down his house, I didn't really. He made a joke that I did, and maybe I did. But a hell of a young talent, strong as hell, obscenely uh, intellectual, which you wouldn't think when you look at him or even talk to him. But he's a very unique person. Defending against him was very difficult. I had a strep throat at the time of that defense too. So not only did I beat him, but I got him sick afterwards. So that's a double win. But he will have his time. I think he needs some more time in the ring with like some veterans. I think what would behoove him is if he can pack his bags and go do 6 months in Japan and just throw people on their heads for a few months. I think he'd really like that. I think that'd make him the monster and the killer he's destined to be. And then when he comes back, I'll probably be waiting for him.
Absolutely. And coming up, NWA has a very busy few months coming up because the Crockett Cup, which is later this month, actually on May 18th, NWA 76, which is at the end of August. What are your thoughts heading into those two shows?
Rocket Cup, I have a title defense against Sam Adonis, who I know a little bit about. He was in the FCW system. He's another guy who didn't let anyone tell him what he can do or how to live his life. So sometimes fired, released, whatever you want to call it. He went and found himself in a different country and he made a lot of headway and a lot of waves in Mexico. We're close to Mexico. It's going to be in Dallas. So granting him a title match, seeing what he has, that's pretty exciting. Um, Short of that, 76 is to be determined. I know it's in Philadelphia, so I'll definitely run the Rocky steps in my entrance. But it'll be a big show going back to the 2300 Arena. Ironically enough, it's the 30-year anniversary almost to the day where the franchise Shane Douglas threw the NWA title down and declared ECW. So there's some historical context that I wouldn't mind revisiting come 76.
I'm really looking forward to both those shows, honestly. I'm really happy to see NWA is coming to Philly because a lot of the times, the shows take place in Georgia, North Carolina, a lot of those historic arenas. But what are your hopes like seeing that, and what are your thoughts on NWA coming to Philadelphia and like kind of branching out from the states that they're usually in?
Philly's a rabid, dire fan base that I love getting in front of because booed or cheered, it doesn't matter to me as long as it's not indifference and they treat nothing with indifference. We were in the 2300 arena briefly during pandemic Ring of Honor, which just didn't have the right feel due to all the circumstances. So going back there, the building with the history, that'll be really cool. Philly, you know, I mean, what can be said about the Philly fan that hasn't already been said? You throw
Oh,
snowballs at Santa Claus. Hopefully, like I've always wanted somebody to throw their own urine at me, and maybe it'll happen there. Hopefully not. Uh, but rabid fan base for wrestling. So hopefully bringing the NWA brand resonates and they can check out looking beyond anything branded wise, any three letters, a great wrestling show at the 2300 Arena where there's a lot of history and a lot of history to read is a can't miss.
Definitely. And as someone who lives like up in the Northeast, I live in New York. I hope to see NWA one day come up to New York. I know New York is not the favorite place for a lot of promotions
Yeah,
to come because
change your laws and make
I
more
know
wrestling. They're absurd
even even indie shows don't even love running here, I feel like half the time.
because it's impossible to make money because there's so many people taking it from you there.
Yeah.
You
Because you
know,
always see
we did,
WWE and AEW, but that's it.
yeah, like you know how bad we as wrestlers want to wrestle in New York? It's one of the best cities in the world to wrestle in.
Yeah.
So I don't know, come November, change your elected officials. If one candidate maybe ran on the platform, we'll make wrestling feasible in New York. Vote for them.
Definitely.
That's
Yeah,
all you.
I would love to see. I guess the closest right now they're coming is to Philly, and that's going to be a great show. So I might need to make the trip for that show.
Oh, you can be my personal guest. How about that?
I appreciate it.
As long as you don't
But
wear that, as long as you don't wear the Yankees hat, then
I have a Cincinnati Reds hat, maybe better.
as you can see, there's Cleveland Indians slash Guardians propaganda in my office. So
Oh yeah, they're
but
doing they're doing good this year, right? They're off to a good start.
in the power rankings, I think they tied for the
Yeah.
lead in wins. I'm cool with the Reds though because here's a story about the Reds. I was in Cincinnati. It was dog crap days of NXT season 4. I'm out in the ring and I don't know what I'm cutting a promo on, but I name drop Pete Rose like a cheap pop. Yeah, Pete Rose. I walk to the back. Pete Rose is just walking by. I was like, holy shit, Pete Rose. He's like, hey man. I'm like, I was just talking about you. He's like, yeah, I
That's
heard you. High five. I'm like, all right, that's cool.
I don't know. I find I like the Guardians are a lot of fun to watch because I like the young fun teams to watch. Unfortunately, the Yankees like they have some star power, but kind of
Yeah.
not the youngest right now. I mean, besides Volpe and Wells, but still.
I what's cool about baseball, what makes it so great sometimes is like, and you can kind of look at this like wrestling too. Teamwork, makes the dream work, so to speak. Like the right pieces in the right place. Moneyball, I think, changed the game, but like a small market team with 1/4 of the payroll can compete against, a conglomerate like New York. Like
Oh
any
yeah,
day, something could happen. And it just requires the right assets, the right people in the right places. And like for wrestling, an NWA is never going to be, nobody's ever going to compete with WWE, but we can make noise and we can play it on the exact same level with creativity, ingenuity, talent that is put in positions to succeed. Like there's no reason we can't have as good of a show.
yeah, definitely. And NWA, I've been really enjoying a lot of the product. I mean, Mims at the most recent show, or one of the most recent shows, he turns heel on Dak Draper. Long time coming. I think it was a lot of fun, truthfully, because I'm excited for this next kind of character development. What was your thought seeing that?
Uh, I think it was a long time coming too, because I know he has a lot of built up apprehension. The thing about when somebody makes that drastic evolution, they have to back it up. So we'll see if he can back it up. Like you, when the spotlight's on you to make a statement, so to speak, it's how you follow through and how you evolve from there. And I think anytime a talent gets that opportunity, the next time they're seen, they got to come out guns blazing. New look, new attitude, new moves, new hold, new presence. Like that's what's great about wrestling and the ability to recreate and reinvent. I mean, nobody did it better than Undertaker, right? So it's always exciting to take a new journey.
Definitely. And I feel like Undertaker is like an outlier for sure because he had, if you think about it, from like 2004 all the way to this year, like for the past 20 years, he had that same dead man character that nobody got tired of. Just
Yeah.
watching him come down to the ring, that slow walk. I was fortunate enough to be there at 29 when he fought Punk at WrestleMania,
I'm
and
not sure.
it
I
was
just,
insane.
yeah. That match, like I forgot how good it was from a storytelling standpoint.
Oh yeah. And even the rivalry like leading up to it, like with the urn and the Paul Bearer passing away a little bit prior to that, and CM Punk playing just a top bad guy. I can't wait to see CM Punk turn heel, truthfully, because I think he's born. I think he's a natural born bad guy, but yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of a jerk, huh? He's kind of a no, he's
I-
great at it. And like two things we can discuss on that aspect.
yeah.
One, Undertaker's a perfect example of what I said earlier. Like he had to be something he might not necessarily be. I'm a real dead man. I'm really dead. Or, but always wanted to be biker taker. And then you get over enough, you can be whatever you want, and it still
Oh yeah.
works. You have the crowd in the palm of your hand. And then you give them the nostalgia on the way out. It's perfect. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about Punk, short of like he knew he had sometimes leaving a place isn't the worst thing. He knew he had to go away if he ever wanted to be where he wanted to be on top to come back. And now, short of that injury, when he comes back, he's going to have that opportunity.
Absolutely. And obviously you've been very busy lately, but is there ever any time that you get to sit down and just be a fan and like sometimes watch these shows, or kind of hit or miss?
Not really. I don't ever really watch anything modern unless it's brought to my attention. Like one thing I need to go find, I want to see Osprey and Daniel because
I heard that match was amazing.
but like, watching our product, I'm cultivating talents. We're training people up in Cleveland starting May 11th. So I'm building a whole unique training program for people that are already trained to kind of bring their game up to the next level. There is not a lot of time to sit and enjoy on the DVR on the couch, but I'll throw matches on if I'm doing cardio or I need a break. But usually I'm like throwing on something random from the 80s. I don't know, man. I got into a Don Morocco kick the other day. So I was just watching Don Morocco and Paul Orndorff. And there's like so many little things that for any talent listening that if you go back and watch some of these older matches, you don't have to do what they did, but there's these little transitions that nobody does anymore that can lead into the stuff you think the people want to see. At the end of the day, what the people want to see is great character, great story, and the great wrestling comes off that. But
Definitely.
don't be a stranger to the past.
Definitely. And I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about, Exodus and you starting the school at ExoPro. What really possessed you to like want to start the promotion and now want to start a school?
Uh, naive, naivety, insanity, taking on too much. Well, I think the promotion is basically what the vision I had of CYN is before it was, outsourced and corrupted and thrown under the bus and lied about. So really, what did I want to create was a platform for young talent that are truly capable and truly driven and truly wanted. So that was always something I wanted to do. I wanted to create the place that it's not going to be a competitive TV deal. Like we're going to compete with Impact and NWA and MLW and AEW and WWE. But like, where's that tier place talent can go to be what's next? Who's next? So that's the idea of what Exodus was. And I'm really good at, I don't know, I'm really good at putting people in good positions to succeed, I think, on a card. So all of our shows have been really good. The content I've been holding tight because I want to distribute it properly from the beginning. But I mean, that was the inspiration. I wanted to create something that I wish I had. And that is what we're doing with Exodus. The fact it was able to become one of the first territories under the new NWA alignment gave us three cool letters to throw in it and some, name value right off the bat, which is cool. But what I'm really proud of is the amount of like bought in aspiring talents that are unique and character based and driven and great workers, using that terminology, and look like studs and athletes and, just be in the spot somebody can go to be like, oh, they're on that show. That means they're on to come up, which I know what's going to happen is that I'm going to start using somebody and then they're going to get signed by major companies. And that's okay because that's what I want because that's what I wish I had.
Definitely. So looking ahead for you, what's kind of next for you with NWA and what future goals or future opponents do you set for yourself as like the top dog there?
I don't know. Like a lot of people need to step up to the plate because I'm looking around and it's like beating everybody. I mean, Trevor Murdoch waits in the wings, Mike Knox waits in the wings, but like as far as the young aspiring guys, like a Colby Carino catches my interest, Joe Alonzo catches my interest. We discussed Thrillbilly, Kerry Moore, and Alex Taylor have caught my interest, and they're all really, really good. But do they have what it takes to become great? So finding out with that. I'm sure I'll run into Tom Latimer again, and I'm sure we'll do this dance for an eternity. And I kind of plan on beating him every time. The goal, like, wow, like 3 years and 33 days is how long I want to hold the title, and then upon that, I will go off into the abyss, never to be seen again.
Awesome. I love to hear it. I'm loving your work. It's been a pleasure to work with you, a pleasure to talk to you. And, I wish you lots of luck.
Appreciate it, Scott. See you in Philly.
Yes, definitely. See you soon.
All right, brother.